I never thought I'd hear the gavel fall like a guillotine on my own life. But there it was, echoing through the marble halls of the Manhattan courthouse, sealing the end of everything I'd built. My husband, ex-husband now, if the lawyers had their way, leaned into the microphone, his voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel, painting me not as the devoted wife who'd covered for his sins, but as the cold-blooded architect of our family's ruin. She did it all, he said, eyes locking onto mine with that fake sincerity he'd perfected over boardroom deals. Embezzled millions from the firm, lied to our faces, destroyed lives. The jury shifted, whispers rippling like aftershocks. And me? I just smiled, because the real cut was coming, the one I'd sharpened in the dead of night for months. But as the bailiff called for order and the judge, stern old Harlan Graves, who'd seen more crooked deals than a Wall Street janitor, picked up the sealed envelope I'd slipped to his clerk at recess, his bushy brows furrowed. He slid it open with a thumbnail, scanned the single page inside, and for the first time that afternoon, the room held its breath. His lips twitched, not in outrage, but something dangerously close to respect. "Smart woman," he muttered, just loud enough for the microphone to catch it, and the color drained from faces like milk spilling from a tipped glass. Prosecutors, my exes, even the court reporter's stenotype clattered to a halt. It started 5 years ago, back when New York felt like a playground instead of a prison. I was Blakely Hart then, fresh out of Columbia Law with stars in my eyes and a summer internship at Sterling and Voss, one of those midtown firms that chewed up associates like cheap cigars. That's where I met Ethan Caldwell, golden boy of the mergers and acquisitions team. He had that Ivy League polish, Princeton undergrad, Harvard JD, family money from Texas oil that he pretended wasn't there. We locked eyes over a conference room table during a due diligence marathon on some pharma merger, and by the time the all-nighters blurred into dawn, we were stealing kisses in the copy room, whispering about ditching the grind for a brownstone in Brooklyn. Ethan proposed 6 months later, on the rooftop of the Standard, with the Hudson glittering below like fool's gold. "You're my edge, Blakely," he said, sliding the ring, a flawless emerald-cut diamond, onto my finger. "The one who sees the angles no one else does." I believed him. God, did I. We married in a civil ceremony at City Hall, followed by a blowout at Le Bernardin that left our friends buzzing about power couples. I climbed fast at the firm, made junior partner by 28, handling the gritty white-collar defense that kept CEOs out of orange jumpsuits. Ethan? He soared into senior VP, closing deals that padded our 401(k)s and funded weekend getaways to the Hamptons. But cracks show in the rearview. It was the Whitaker account that did it, a $200 million hedge fund transfer for a client who'd been cooking books since the '08 crash. Ethan oversaw the wire. I rubber-stamped the compliance docs because he swore it was clean, just creative accounting to beat the auditors. One night, after too much Pinot at our West Village loft, he confessed the skim, $5 million siphoned into an offshore shell in the Caymans, his retirement parachute against a market dip. I laughed it off at first, romantic rebellion. Right? Us against the machine. But when the SEC sniffers started circling, Ethan panicked. "Blakely, baby, you're the lawyer. You know how to bury this." And I did. I forged the backdated memos, routed the funds through my client trust account to muddy the trail, even took the heat in internal memos as the oversight queen who'd missed the flags. Why? Love's a hell of a drug, and Ethan was my fix. Plus, there was Lily, our daughter, barely 2, with his dimples and my stubborn chin, I couldn't let the feds drag him away. Not when he'd promised to go straight after the baby. One last play, he begged, and I bought it, hook and sinker. I bore the brunt, sleepless audits, stonewalling the board. Even a quiet slap on the wrist from the Bar Association that cost me a month's vacation but no license. Ethan emerged unscathed, promoted, even, while I ground my teeth through the fallout. "You're my hero," he whispered that night, pulling me close as Lily cooed in her crib. Hero. What a joke. The betrayal hit like a subway derailment 2 years later. I just wrapped a plea deal for a Wall Street wolf accused of insider trading when Ethan's phone buzzed on the kitchen island. I glanced, force of habit from years of redacting docs, and there it was. Text from his paralegal Veronica. The one with the yoga-toned arms and whispers about our future. "Tell me it's over," one read. "She's holding you back. Marry me after the divorce. And the money's ours." My stomach dropped faster than the Dow in a crash. I scrolled back. Months of pillow talk. Plans to pin the Whitaker mess on me if I didn't sign the papers quietly. He'd been building the case against me all along, leaking docs to the feds anonymously, coaching Veronica to testify about my erratic behavior under stress. I confronted him that night. Lily asleep upstairs. The city humming outside like it didn't care. Ethan. What the fuck? He didn't even flinch. Just poured another scotch.
Neat.
Blakely. You're brilliant. But you're a liability now. The firm's watching. The SEC's got ears everywhere. Veronica's clean, no skeletons. We divorce amicably. You get the apartment. I get custody. Walk away a rich ex. Or fight and end up disbarred. His eyes. Those same eyes that once lit up at my jokes. Were flat as a bad check. I slapped him, hard, the crack echoing off the exposed brick, and he laughed. Low and ugly.
See?
That's why. You're fire, babe. But fire burns out. I didn't sleep. Dawn broke with me at the kitchen table. Laptop open to divorce filings. But instead of signing, I started digging. Buried in his browser history, emails to a PI firm, payoffs to firm insiders for dirt on me, even a draft affidavit swearing I'd coerced him into the skim. The secret I'd buried for him? It was his noose now, twisted into mine. But I wasn't going down alone. Revenge isn't a dish best served cold. It's a slow poison, dripped into the veins of everyone who watched you bleed. First move, I lawyered up quietly. A shark from across the river named Marco Ruiz. Ex-fed with a grudge against white-collar weasels. We mapped it out over empanadas in his Astoria office. No scorched earth. Just surgical strikes. I mirrored his Cayman account to a dummy LLC in my name, ironic. Right? And leaked just enough to the Post's financial beat to spook his investors without fingering him yet. Then Veronica, I tailed her to a spin class in Soho. Struck up a chat as fellow divorcee, planted seeds of doubt about Ethan's commitments.
She bit.
Hard. When I showed her the texts he'd sent me, edited, of course, to make him this serial cheater. Ethan felt the heat. Calls went unanswered. Meetings canceled. He cornered me at pickup for Lily's preschool. All charm and desperation. Blakely, let's talk. For her sake. I handed him coffee, black, 2 sugars, and smiled.
Sure.
Tomorrow. Neutral ground. Central Park. Alice in Wonderland statue. Noon. He bought it.
The fool.
I didn't show. Instead, I filed the countersuit. Alienation of affection against Veronica. Fraud against him. and a custody petition citing his instability. The judge, preliminary hearing. Some rookie named Patel, froze assets pending review. Ethan's face on the Zoom call? Priceless. Like he'd swallowed a lemon whole. But he flipped the script faster than a hedge fund pivot. 2 weeks in, my PI called. Ethan's lawyered up with the firm's own rainmaker. A silver fox named Harlan Graves. No. Wait. That was the trial judge. Coincidence? Or karma? Anyway, they countersued for defamation, claiming my leaks were sabotage. Veronica recanted, swearing I'd harassed her. Showed texts I'd faked. Lies. All of it. But the court swallowed it like bad sushi. Bailiff served me at the office. Temporary restraining order. No contact with Lily pending psych evals. I drove home in a daze, the city blurring into streaks of neon and regret. That's when the real scheming started. Ethan wasn't just betraying me, he was erasing me, piece by piece, to build his phoenix from my ashes. I hit rock bottom in a NoHo dive bar, nursing a gin and tonic that tasted like battery acid, when Marco slid into the booth. We pivot. Blakely. Go nuclear. Nuclear meant the note, the one I'd penned in longhand, cross-referenced with every email, wire log, and offshore ping I'd archived. It wasn't evidence, it was a map, a confession in code, pointing the Fed straight to Ethan's real skeletons, not just Whitaker, but a Ponzi thread tying him to a Brooklyn developer who'd vanished with $10 mil in pension funds. I'd taken the fall for the skim, but he'd orchestrated the whole web, using my trust account as the spider's silk. The trial date loomed like a storm front. Pre-trial motions flew, his team pushing for dismissal, mine for discovery that'd gut him. Ethan cornered me outside family court one drizzly Tuesday, Lily's hand tugging at his coat. "You're nothing now," he whispered, breath hot against my ear as the rain slicked our coats. "Sign the papers, or I'll bury you so deep, Lily'll forget your face." I pulled back, met his gaze, and for the first time, I saw the fear flickering behind the bravado.
Oh.
"Ethan," I said softly, "you have no idea what's coming." The weeks blurred into a fever dream of depositions and discovery dumps, each box of files a fresh grave for Ethan's empire. I'd always prided myself on the law's precision, every clause a scalpel, every precedent a shield, but revenge? That's a blunt instrument, hacking through bone and sinew until you're both bleeding out. Marco and I holed up in his office, walls papered with timelines and org charts, piecing together the mosaic of Ethan's deceit. Turns out, Veronica wasn't his first side play. She'd been the third in a string of assets he'd groomed at the firm, each one a ladder rung on his climb. The betrayal cut deepest, not in the affairs, New York men, am I right, but in how he'd weaponized our marriage, turning my loyalty into his alibi. We leaked strategically an anonymous tip to the Journal about irregularities in Sterling and Voss's pension audits. Time to drop the day before Ethan's big client pitch. The fallout was biblical. Stocks dipped 8%. Board called an emergency session, and Ethan's name topped the whisper list. He retaliated viciously. Of course. Hackers hired goons. I figured. DDoS'd my firm's servers, blaming it on disgruntled ex. The Post ran a hit piece, Jilted Wife's Cyber Revenge, with my yearbook photo smirking like I'd planned it. Public opinion split down the middle, half cheering the scorned woman's fight, half clucking about bitter harpies ruining good men. Social media lit up. Blakely versus the bastard trending. Memes of me as a black widow in Louboutins. Lily's school sent a note about increased attention, I picked her up early, her tiny backpack slung over one shoulder, and we fled to my sister's in Jersey for the weekend, hiding from the paparazzi drones, buzzing like angry hornets. Ethan flipped again during mediation, all olive branch and puppy eyes. We met in a glass-walled conference room overlooking Times Square, the negotiator a neutral drone in chinos. "Blakely, this is madness," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Financials showing I'd get alimony. The brownstone. Even weekends with Lily, if I dropped the fraud claims. We're destroying each other." "For what?" "Pride." His voice cracked just right, the actor in him shining. I flipped through the pages. Saw the fine print, a gag clause burying the Whitaker mess forever, plus a psych eval clause that could torpedo custody. Veronica hovered in the hall, filing her nails, the picture of supportive arm candy. I leaned in, voice low. "Pride? No. Ethan. Justice. You built your throne on my back. Time to watch it crumble." I walked out, but not before palming his phone during a powder room break. Classic misdirection. The kind I'd learned tailing witnesses. By midnight, I'd cloned it. Voicemails from shell company reps. Texts plotting my frame up with the PI.
Gold.
But karma's a fickle bitch. That night, sirens wailed outside my sister's split level. Cops at the door. A break-in at my loft. Files ransacked. My laptop, the one with the offshore backups, smashed to bits. Ethan's work. No doubt. But no proof. I spent the next day at the precinct, filing reports that felt as substantial as smoke, while Marco raged about going to the feds prematurely. Patience. Blakely. Let him sweat. He did more than sweat. He unraveled. Firm suspended him pending investigation. Veronica bolted to a job in D.C. Rumor had it she'd been promised a ring, not a restraining order. Ethan showed up at my temp office in Flatiron, unshaven, reeking of bourbon and desperation. "Please," he begged through the intercom, rain plastering his shirt to his chest like a drowned rat. Security buzzed him up. I met him in the lobby, arms crossed. "What now?"
"Ethan?"
"Come to confess." He grabbed my wrist too tight, bruises blooming later, and hissed, "You think you're winning? Lily's asking for me. The world's seeing you for what you are. Obsessed. Unhinged." I twisted free, called security, but his words lodged like shrapnel.
"Was I?"
The mirror showed hollow cheeks, eyes ringed in shadow. Revenge was hollowing me out, turning protector into predator. The flip came mid-trial prep, a gut-punch twist that left me reeling. Marco called at 2 a.m. "Blakely, you need to see this." He emailed a scan, a 2018 clinic receipt from Ethan's wallet, copied during the phone clone. Prenatal blood work. Positive for Lily, but dated 3 weeks before our wedding night. The math didn't lie. She wasn't his. Or mine. Not biologically. IVF records followed. Buried in a Delaware clinic, donor eggs. His sperm. Surrogacy contract I'd signed half asleep after a miscarriage scare, thinking it was routine fertility meds. Ethan knew. All along. He'd known. And used it as leverage. Fight me, and the truth comes out. Lily's not yours. Courts hate that instability. Rage boiled over. Hot and black as tar. I'd borne the secret for him. Not just the crime, but our daughter's origins. A patchwork family we'd sold as organic bliss. The betrayal layered like sedimentary rock, each stratum heavier, the skim, the affairs, the frame. Now this. I drove to the loft at dawn, the city waking in smears of gold and gray. and sat on the floor amid the wreckage, piecing together the laptop shards like a mad archaeologist. Data recovery firm pulled fragments, emails from Ethan to the clinic director, pressuring for discretion post-birth. Even a draft will naming Veronica as Lily's guardian if I proved unfit. That's when the decisions got controversial. The kind that'd split a jury or a dinner party right down the middle. Marco argued ethics. We exposed the parentage. It's nuclear. But it hurts the kid. I nodded. But my mind raced to darker alleys. What if I didn't expose? What if I weaponized it? I hired a fixer, not a lawyer. A ghost from the Bronx with ties to every union and precinct. Cash under the table. Tail Ethan. Plant whispers that he's dodging child support on a love child. Nothing illegal. Just pressure points. The fixer delivered. A blurry photo in the tabloids. Ethan arm in arm with a mystery blonde, paid actress. Caption screaming, "Deadbeat dad's new flame?" His calls flooded my burner. Stop this shit. Blakely, you're poisoning Lily against me. Poison. The words stuck. Festering.
Was I?
Lily's drawings from school showed stick-figure families fractured. Me with a crown of thorns. But surrender wasn't in my blood. Heart women didn't fold. We fought dirty. Like my mom clawing through dad's abandonment to raise 3 girls on diner tips. I doubled down. Anonymous donation to a whistleblower site. Whitaker docs redacted just enough to implicate the firm without naming names. SEC raided Sterling and Voss that Thursday. Agents in windbreakers swarming the lobby like locusts. Ethan texted, first time in weeks. You bitch. This ends now. Trial day dawned crisp. Autumn leaves skittering across Foley Square like omens. I suited up in Armani black. The note folded in my clutch like a loaded gun. Courthouse security waved me through. The metal detector beeping at my resolve. Ethan testified first. Polished lies tumbling out. My manipulations, the forged docs, painting me as Lady Macbeth in heels. The jury, a mix of Brooklyn firefighters, Queens teachers, Wall Street refugees, hung on every word, faces hardening. Veronica backed him,
Teary-eyed.
swearing I'd threatened her life. Lies. All elegant fiction. My turn came after lunch. The room stuffy, with recycled air and judgment. I took the stand steady, voice clear as a closing argument. Your Honor, members of the jury, I didn't steal from my family. I protected it. I laid it out, not the full bomb. But enough. Ethan skim. My cover. His betrayal. Gasps rippled. His lawyer objected furiously. But Graves overruled, eyes twinkling like he knew the punchline. Then recess. I slipped the note to the clerk. My ace. Coordinates to a Dropbox with the clinic files. Ethan's will. The Ponzi threads. Time-stamped to prove he'd framed me post-discovery. For your eyes only. Your Honor, I whispered. The truth's in the shadows. Back in session. Ethan cross-examined. Venom dripping. You admit to falsifying documents. Mrs. Caldwell. MS. Hart, I corrected. And yes for love. What did you do for it? Ethan? Sell me out. The jury leaned in, his face flushed crimson. The gavel cracked like thunder as Graves reconvened, the note in his hand a talisman of impending doom. Ethan paced the well. Ty Askew. Shooting me glances that could curdle cream, hatred laced with that old fear. The one I glimpsed in Central Park. Counsel, the judge boomed, voice gravelly from decades of verdicts. Approach. Whispers died. Even the court artist paused her sketch. I stood. Heart hammering like a junkie's vein. Marco at my elbow murmuring, "Easy, Blakely. Let it play." At sidebar, Graves leaned in, breath minty with Altoids. "This," he said, tapping the paper, "changes everything. Ponzi ties to city pensions? That's RICO territory, not just divorce fodder." His eyes flicked to Ethan, who hovered like a vulture scenting weakness. "You sure about this?" "Yes." "Heart opens a door you can't shut." I nodded, throat dry. He opened it first. "Your Honor." I just turned on the light. Graves grunted approval, smart woman, and the mic caught it, broadcasting to the room. Faces paled. Ethan's went ashen as printer paper. Veronica's makeup cracking like fault lines. The prosecutors, wait. This was civil. But feds lurked in the back row now. Suits starched and alert. Chaos erupted. Ethan's lawyer lunged for mistrial. Graves denied it, calling a 15-minute hold for Chambers review. Bailiffs herded us out. But not before Ethan cornered me by the water fountain. Voice a strangled whisper. "What did you do?" "That note. It's suicide." I sipped from the cooler. Cool as a cucumber.
No. Ethan.
"It's checkmate." "You whispered I was nothing? Watch me become everything." He lunged, half-hearted, desperate, but security peeled him off, cuffing his hands for disorderly as cameras flashed from the hall. Chambers was a pressure cooker, Graves grilling Marco on provenance, feds flashing badges for handover. Ethan confessed in fragments, Ponzi to fund the affairs, clinic blackmail to keep me leashed, even Lily's instability clause a ploy to flip custody.
But the twist?
The real gut-wrencher dropped like a bad stock tip. In the Dropbox, buried under layers of encryption I'd cracked with a freelance coder in Queens, was an audio file, Ethan's voice, pre-wedding, negotiating the surrogacy. "Make sure the contract's ironclad," he said. "Blakely thinks it's hers. But if things sour..." Leverage. Not just betrayal. He'd engineered the miscarriage scare. Dose my wine with hormones to force the IVF. All to bind me tighter. I'd borne the crime, the secret, even the lie of motherhood, for a puppet master who'd strung me along from day one. The courtroom reconvened to pandemonium. Graves unsealed the note, redacted for Lily's sake, and read excerpts verbatim. Caldwell's offshore, 47.658 N. 122.335 W. Seattle vaults. Not Caymans. Ponzi victims, 200-plus retirees, including Judge Graves' cousin.
Boom.
Conflict of interest?
Nah.
Graves recused himself mid-sentence, passing to a floating judge. But the damage stuck like gum on a loafer. Jury dismissed for the day. Feds swarmed Ethan in the antechamber. Miranda rights rolling like credits. Veronica bolted, heels clacking on marble, straight into a reporter's mic. I had no idea. I slipped out a side door. Marco clapping my shoulder. "You did it, Blakely. Clean win, custody, assets." His head on a platter. But victory tasted like ash. Lily waited at daycare, oblivious, her pigtails bobbing as she hugged my legs. "Mommy, Daddy said you're a superhero." Superhero. Or villain. The line blurred in the rearview as I drove us to Jersey. Sirens wailing in the distance, like the city's dirge. The polarizing climax hit that night. Viral before midnight. Leaks mine.
There's...
Who knows? Hit X and TikTok. Clips of Graves' smart woman. Ethan's meltdown. Speculation on Lily's parentage sans names. Debates ignited. Was I avenger or abuser? Exposing a fraud at what cost to a child? Feminists hailed me as boss bitch revenge. Trads decried me as a feminist Frankenstein, destroying family for spite. Protests flickered outside Sterling and Voss, victims' families with signs. Justice for pensions. Not petty wars. Ethan flipped one last time from lockup. A jailhouse call to Marco. Tell her I'll plead. Full confession.
Just. Don't tell Lily.
She's ours.
Ours.
The word gutted me. Dawn found me on my sister's porch. Coffee steaming. Lily asleep inside with dreams unscarred. The twist? I didn't tell. Not then. Not ever. Maybe. Revenge's endgame isn't triumph. It's the mirror, reflecting back a woman who'd traded soul for scalpel. Charges stuck. Ethan, 15, to life on wire fraud. Firm dissolved in lawsuits. Veronica, accessory after the fact. Community service in a soup kitchen. I got the brownstone. Full custody. A book deal from a hungry agent sniffing memoir gold. Happy? In the American way, numb success. Therapy bills piling like cordwood. But as Lily blew out candles on her 5th birthday cake, giggling at the frosting mess, I caught my reflection in the window. Eyes harder. Smile practiced. Ethan rotted in Otisville, writing letters I burned unread. The world argued my morality, podcasts dissecting Blakely's gambit, law schools case studying the note. Right or wrong? Hell if I know. I saved victims, shattered a girl's illusions, avenged a betrayal deeper than blood. In the end, revenge isn't closure. It's a ghost you learn to live with, whispering in the quiet hours that maybe, just maybe, you became the monster to slay. Months later, a parcel arrived, no sender. Postmarked from upstate. Inside, Ethan's wedding band. Engraved my edge and a note in his scroll. You won. But at what price? I held it to the flame. Watched it curl black. The smoke rising like unanswered questions. Lily called from the yard. Mom, come play. I did. Pushing her on the swing. The chain creaking under our weight. Nothing now.
No.
I was everything flawed. Fierce. Forever changed. And in America's grand, messy theater, that was victory enough. Or damnation. You decide.